Hello everyone, Steve here again. This time I'm in Brazil, Indiana, a town that is in kind of the western part of the state, right there in the center. And I'm also in the hometown of notable people such as Jimmy Hoffa, Orville Redenbacher, and of course everybody's favorite Indiana pro, Niall Lovett. And today I am taking you through a tour of the Brazil Park. Now this park is a prefabricated park that was opened up in 2014. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the ramps actually came from Danville, Indiana, which previously had a park. They decided to close that park due to vandalism and other issues surrounding that. And I think the city of Brazil purchased the ramps off of them and installed them in their own skate park. And this skate park is relatively small and compact and maybe not the best layout for some of these, but it is very smooth. So I will take you through the park and show you everything that's here to skate. And maybe if you're in the Brazil area, you want to stop by and check it out for yourself. So to kick things off, I'm going to start out in the flat ground area. And there are a couple of rectangular 1-foot tall ledges that you can skate. Granted, there's not a lot of space for all of them, so run up is certainly an issue in order to skate them. But there's two of these rectangular blocks which serve as manual pads or ledges you can see in front of me. These are about 6 feet wide and about 10 feet long. And each one of them, like I said, is a foot tall. This one in the middle, though, is ideal for grinds and slides because it is kind of dead center in this flat ground area. Maybe a little bit closer to the right, but still plenty of time to set up for tricks and have a good session on it if that's what you like skating. Then there is another ledge, but this one is unique in that it angles up slightly. So you start with that foot tall edge and then it gets up to maybe about 18 inches. So it's still a pretty mellow slope, but if you want to do a grind up or do a manual up, you can certainly do that. Probably not as easy to do something down it, though you can carve around the corner and get to it as well. But it's basically the same dimensions other than the fact that the one end is taller than the other end. And then the other ledge that you have is this kind of taller, maybe 14-inch tall box that is about 12 feet long, and it has round coping on the edges of it. So definitely more intended for like rollerblades or BMX or something like that, but does give you a slightly different feel when you're grinding it. And again, there's ways to carve into it to skate it like a box. You just have to have the pop to get on there, but a nice little flat ground feature as well. Now there's the classic like X Games street course style layout where you've got a prefabricated quarter pipe that transitions almost immediately into a pyramid area. Now that quarter pipe itself is 4 feet tall and about 8 feet wide. The pyramid area itself has these wedge ramps that I would say are about 3 feet tall, probably 8 feet long or so, so kind of a steep slope, but still not bad to get onto. And one side of it is separated by a 4-foot gap or flat on top, and you can see there is actually a gap in there. The other side is like double that, so you actually have two of these where it's more like 8 feet across. And then these ramps have, of course, started to pull apart, or maybe they were never connected or pushed up against each other to begin with, and so there's a little gap that you have to deal with as well. This would be easily fixable if the city just came and like welded in some sheet metal or something like that, but needless to say, you do have to deal with that. And of course you've got this box hubba ledge thing in the middle as well that is kind of the same setup as what I showed you with the flat box, where you've got these rounded coping things on it, but this extends outward and does have a bit of a steep pitch to it. It's only about 14 inches tall to get onto, so it's not bad, and certainly if you can get the speed, the ramps will kick you up onto it. But it is kind of lengthy and maybe a bit old school. You typically see skate parks doing, with newer skate park designs, doing something that's a little bit more mellow and spread out rather than something that kind of shoots you down into the ground. Then you've got quite a bit of space before you get up into these, or this 4-foot quarter that's 16 feet wide. And again, you've got that same kind of gap there in between the ramps. I really don't know why they didn't just push those together completely, but who knows. Then we've got a stage area, and this was like exactly what the Danville Park had, so it's kind of why I'm thinking that maybe these ramps came from Danville. The other possibility is that these parks were built around similar time frames and they just decided to do away with the Danville Park. But needless to say, you've got a 4-foot tall wedge ramp and then a slightly shorter, maybe 3.5 foot tall wedge ramp that has a 4-foot Euro gap on the top of it. So this is probably, I don't want to say it's unrealistic because it's definitely skatable, but it's really not like what you'd want ideally for a Euro gap. You'd probably want something that gives you at least a little bit more run up in speed if you're going to clear that, or just, the flat part is a little bit shorter and closer to the step up area. But needless to say, it's a Euro gap. Then you've got a stretched out 5 stair. This is kind of a classic like skate concepts design where you have a pretty mellow down rail. This is a square rail, and certainly it does skate a little bit like a gap over the rail as well if you're inclined to do that. Granted, you've got a ramp, you've got to deal with it where you land. But this is really stretched out. Each one of these steps is about 2 feet long or close to it. So as a 5 stair, that makes it for a pretty long gap, but can certainly do it. Just have to deal with a crack where you land. Not horrible, but still can cause issues. Then you've got a really mellow hubba to get onto. It's only about 6 or 8 inches tall where you would ollie onto it. So it almost skates like a manual pad down to drop. And then of course, about 2 feet on top. So rounded coping on that, but it sticks up enough to where you can lock in. Then we've got another 4-foot tall wedge ramp. Pretty standard dimensions for a prefab park. Can do tricks to fakie and stuff like that, so it does give you some flexibility there. Then we get into an area where I don't know what's going on here. Obviously, lack of city maintenance, somebody not coming out and doing their job for the parks department and cleaning that up. I will say at least the skaters are getting their trash in that area, so it's really, this is the fault of the city to not come by and empty that out. Then another 5 stair, kind of see a theme here. This one's of course wider, so you can set up for the rail in either direction instead of just one direction on the other one. So front side or back side, regardless of whether you're regular or goofy foot. Then a much bigger hubba ledge. This thing is longer and taller. It's about a foot to get onto and extends out probably 12 feet long or so. And then on the other side, we've got another Euro gap. Same dimensions as before, but unfortunately with this one, you don't have any way to really get speed unless you run and throw down, and that's probably not going to be enough. So this is not getting skated like a Euro gap. Now to round out the park, you do have a 3-foot tall mini ramp. This mini ramp has basically amounts to 16 feet wide. Of course, with the spacing between the ramps, these are not flush, so you can't really like grind it across very well. And you do have this gap in the middle of them that's going to cause you issues. And of course, the quarter pipe is pulling away from the stage. So lots of problems with this relative to the setup, but with some simple repairs, it would just be perfectly well skatable. I think these are maybe a little bit far apart, so they could be moved together closer, but all in all, it's a mini ramp, and I'm sure some people find enjoyment skating this. Pretty standard dimensions, normal radius, things like that. But yeah, 16 feet wide. Okay, so that does it for the Brazil, Indiana skate park. As you can see, there's not a lot to it. It's not very big, but when I was here, it's totally empty. So there's some fun things to session, especially if you like prefabricated parks. Nice and smooth still, of course. So I can have fun with it, but maybe not something I would want to skate all the time, but still a good option, especially compared to some of the other parks in the area. So if you're in the Brazil area and you're looking for a place to skate, maybe you want to come by and check out this park. Of course, if you have any questions about the skate park, just drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I will see you in the next skate park tour video. Thanks for watching.